let us start with an introduction of socialism. Basically, when we talk about socialism, we are just going to go through the basic features. So we will study that what are the basic features and what are the advantages of, or rather, and also the disadvantages of a socialist economic system. Start with we can Hicks defined socialism as an economic system in which the means of production are owned. And operated by the state for the maximization of social welfare. Okay, so basically, when we talk about maximization of social welfare, so it is quite different from the capitalist economic system, because under capitalism, the aim is not maximization of social welfare, but it is a maximization of individual profits or individual gains, because there is a concept of private property which is absent under the uh, socialist economy. So basically, the uh, impetus of a social system is to share the work and wealth equally among the various members of the society or the citizens of the country. So basically, when we say that it is everything, that is the goods as well as services as a social product. That is, it is not to be used for individual welfare, but it is to be used for social causes or to promote equality and equity in the society as a whole. So basically, socialism will focus on social welfare and capitalism will focus on individual gains. Thus, there is a problem of inequality which is always present under capitalism. Okay, so in order to ensure that there is social welfare, a very important feature of socialism is that there has to be state ownership. That is, there has to be government control over property, production, as well as the distribution of the goods and services. Because distribution is also an important part of promoting equity or equal distribution of benefits that are acquired from any economic activity. So basically, obviously, it doesn't concern with the performance criteria. Rather, it concerns with that everyone should get an equal share of whatever is being produced. So basically, private property not allowed under a socialist structure, and also the private enterprise, or rather, there is a form of government control which doesn't allow, you know. A particular section to derive more benefits in comparison to another. So basically, under socialism, again there is a central planning and control. That is, there is a central planning authority, which may be the the central government that decides what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and therefore, because the free market is not allowed, that is, prices are not determined and output is not determined according to the demand and supply functions. So the price mechanism is present, but it is somewhat suppressed in such a system. Okay. Again, then another the concept which is related to socialism is that because the government controls all the production and consumption, all the it always makes sure to prioritize essential commodities rather than production for social welfare, rather than rather than any of the luxurious goods, or say a government is socialist in nature, so it will prioritize services such as healthcare, telecommunication, okay, and roadways rather than luxury cars or luxury appliances, or those sort of things. Okay, so basically that is what a socialist government does, and therefore the planning authority always prioritizes the essential commodities. Again, the production is done since the production is done for social welfare, not for profit. So profit making is not all the motive. Therefore, the prices are kept to the mostly below the optimal level of the prices, or below the equilibrium price, because as we just discussed earlier, that the price mechanism is somewhat suppressed under this system. And also another criteria for a socialist economic system is that mass consumption is not allowed. Like there are sanctions in production, as we understood that only essential commodities are prioritized, the prices are kept low, and as such. But there is also a criteria that mass consumption cannot be allowed in such a system. Why mass consumption is not allowed? Because obviously, if there will be mass consumption, it means we are allowing the person who has the ability to pay and willingness to pay to acquire uh, a bigger slot or chunk of the available goods and services, which may not be easily available to, or affordable to the other sections of the society who are somewhat lacking economically, rather, or also socially or politically. So in such a scenario, if there is a condition of mass consumption, then what happens is that there is always the problem of shortage of goods and services. The prices will rise, there will be inflation, and then profit seeking will become a motive. So that is why mass consumption is not allowed. Um, Also, under such a system, there is a state sponsored social security, for example, health insurance, unemployment benefits. Uh, uh, so these type of benefits are provided by the state, so that all the individuals give equal opportunities to, and also their job is secured. So basically, hence there is maximization of social welfare. But also there is a focus on classless societies. That is, it doesn't promote, or it doesn't allow class division in the society. Like one very a good example is Karl Marx theory of communism, which is also extreme form of socialism, as we studied. So in it, Karl Marx discussed that firstly there will be division in classes, and then there will be the reserve army. You might have studied that theory, right? So there will be a reserve army, and then the proletariat will finally overtake the bourgeois, because for the bourgeois class will keep on accumulating capital and accumulating profit. So there will be a class revolution, and basically the class, and after that the class structure will be eradicated from the social structure. So like that. So also, since it is a centrally planned system and there is a lot of control, so there is a planning authority who prepares the national plan, and all the production related and distribution related activities are carried out according to the national plan. So you might be thinking that somewhat it is also the case of economies like India. So yes, we have a sort of socialist structure, but also we have borrowed from the concepts of capitalism. So we have a mixed economy. So um, okay. And also the allocation is always need based, as we studied earlier yesterday in the property rights section, that the allocation under socialist system is need based. For example, in the like we took the example of the housing societies that were built by the government. So in such scenarios, the allocation is not done on the basis of willingness to pay and ability to pay, but rather on the basis of government, sanctions and regulations, and certification. And that is why a more need-based allocation of goods and services is done, rather than a based on the market price mechanism. Again, as we all know, that socialism is a sort of economic system, but it is not possible to follow a purely socialist or a purely capitalist form of economic system in real life, and therefore there have been diverging views regarding socialism. For example, the first concern was that to what extent a economy should be controlled. So when we say that there was a certain section, and there is still a certain section who says that under socialism, all the public, each and every public good, each and every person, item, or goods and service is a public property, except the most personal item. But uh, there was another school of thought, or another, group of scholars and also policymakers who argued that the extent to which economy should be controlled should be limited to only the essential goods and services, for example, electricity, healthcare, education, whereas there should be some form of autonomy provided. For example, farms, small shops, and businesses can be privately owned, but they should be subject to government regulation. That is, the businesses are privately owned because they are not essential services, but they will still be under the regulation of the government. So that sort of a more relaxed form of socialism was also, desired by uh, a certain section of policymakers and scholars. So the second question that where there was diverging views is that on what level the government should exert control. For example, like China, North Korea, and Vietnam, the central control is over the entire economy. So basically, it is also the case for economies like the communist countries, like the former Soviet Union, that the entire economy is controlled by a central body or an administrative body. So now this central, controlling agency or the body would in such a structure would tell all the businesses that what they have to produce, how they have to produce, and for whom they have to produce. And they will also dictate that at what price the products, that is the goods and services, can be sold. Whereas there was another, so there were, because of this structure, there were um, disagreement among various policymakers and also scholars and development scholars who said that no, a more decentralized control is required even in a socialist structure where the the control of production and price and what to produce, all these questions should be um, with the beneficiaries, or rather with the people who are actually consuming them. So basically, a decentralized control also means that it is more participatory in nature, and therefore it is more efficient. Therefore, control should be decentralized means that it should be exerted by those who are most affected by these industries under which uh, the, uh, they are functioning. For example, if we take a town that is collectively owned and it is managing businesses, and the businesses serve as a means of livelihood for the people of this town, so therefore they will be knowing better that what are the products and services they have to produce and how it should be produced, what is the quantity that has to be produced. So that will be a more decentralized control. So here still a community is owing the entire, collectively owning and managing the business, but instead of the state or a centralized body deciding what to produce, how to produce, the community members themselves or the town members themselves will decide this. Okay. So therefore, there were a lot of challenges in the economy um, that many communist nations especially faced, and that is why they moved from a central planning to a more market-oriented planning, where they let the market forces to determine the production and the pricing decisions. Okay, so that concept came to be known as a more market socialism concept. It was actually a subtype of socialism, but it adopted, or rather it adopts certain traits of capitalism, and this allows it uh, you know to enforce limited private ownership. So under this system, uh, the market demand determines uh, the prices at which the product has to be sold and what products have to be produced. So it is not a free market economy, but it has taken certain traits of capitalism. So that is market socialism. So we can take an example, that is um, like profits are being generated in a firm and it goes directly to the employees or is being used as public fund, for example giving social security to or to employees, or training programs of employees. So in such a case the profits will be generated, but it will not go to the state, but it will be distributed among the employees and the managers of that particular firm. So there will be more incentive to produce profits, because in and to use more, there will be incentive to use more efficient modes of production. Otherwise, if there is no incentive of profit, uh, then of course, if everyone is sure of getting their incomes and that the incomes will be fixed, then of course there is lack of motivation that occurs, and therefore a market socialism structure has been preferred by many economists over time. Again, mixed economy is also sort of a market socialism. For example, the Eastern European and some of the South American countries, and also like India is an example of mixed economy. Here, the key industries are not privatized, rather they are more nationalized. For example, defense, health, education, these sectors are nationalized, and most businesses are privately owned, but they are again regulated by the government. So most of the businesses which do not produce or or provide essential products and services such as healthcare, and defense, also maybe in case of India, transport in form of railways. So these sectors are nationalized, whereas the other businesses that provide goods and services like textile, jewelry, and food also. So it is under private control. But still, although the ownership is private, but the regulations of the imposed by the government has to be followed in the form of labor laws, production quotas, like, and price ceiling mechanisms. Okay. Now, when we talk about the disadvantages that come with socialist form of economy, the first, it is a very intuitive disadvantage that we all know, that what is happening, that because state and the government has control over the all the decisions of the production, consumption, distribution. So all the economic and political power is concentrated with the state, and therefore this leads to a autocratic state where state pose a lot of undue interference even in the daily life of people. There's a lot of interference from the government and all the basic daily life activities also. Then the next disadvantage is that there is lack of initiative among masses. So people not offered any incentive for greater work or efficiency of the or efficiency or entrepreneurial abilities, because under socialist system what happens, whatever is produced, whatever profit is generated, there is lack of initiative among the masses. We were saying that because each and every individual receives the salaries and wages that are fixed by the government, in such a system there is lack of initiative among the masses. Also, there is a reduction in the overall productivity. And why does this happen? This happens because the government servants and the bureaucrats are the one who manage economic affairs. Okay, so since they manage all the economic affairs, uh, uh, the people are also more involved into getting their salaries rather than increasing their productivity, because there is no incentive for working harder or working more efficiently, and therefore there is often wastage of resources, and because of poor decision making by bureaucrats, and there is lack of accountability in such a situation, and also because there is no incentive to work more efficiently, there is wastage and inefficiency, and therefore there is a in general reduction in overall productivity. Now, also there is the problem that there is lack of consumer sovereignty. So consumer sovereignty means the wants of the consumers are generally not considered while production of goods and services, because if there's a socialist structure, so they will always prioritize the either the essential goods and services, or they will prioritize the goods and services which the ruling party or the government feels are more important, rather than taking into consideration that until and unless it is a well functioning democracy, until and unless it is so, therefore it will not consider the choices of the consumers. Okay, say for example, there is a nation which has a lot of young population, so they will be requiring more of consumer goods rather than social security, such as pensions and health insurance, such schemes. But if the government thinks that those are the more essential goods and services, then of course the consumers' choices will be neglected in such a case, and therefore there is a lack of consumer sovereignty in such a case. So, uh, so basically, the consumers have to consume only those goods and services that are decided by the planning authority. Again, there is a distribution through a rationing system under this, structure, which is against the consumer freedom, because when there is rationing, that okay, everyone will get only as much as they need, that is the need based distribution. In such a case, there will always be a problem of consumer freedom, that is the consumer freedom will be compromised or sacrificed in some way. Now, there is also a lack of occupational freedom, like we know in the socialist economies like Vietnam and China, and where there are these proper offices where you go and register yourself and then you get an employment. So in that case, based on your skills, the government decides that which employment you should take up, and therefore human labor is also considered as just another resource in under such economic systems, because human labor is also another resource. Those who do not work or disobey will obviously not be able to get the benefit, and they will not get, or not we say that those who do not work or do not obey will not eat. Therefore, basically, it is the government who will decide. So if you do not take that choice, you will not get the your wages or salary or whatever. Okay. So next is that there is a lot of, which is a given, that when there is a lot of concentration of power with a central authority, there is a problem of red tapeism and bureaucracy, and it is in full swing in such socialist economies and even more in communist economies. Now, this basically deters quick and timely decision making, because there is always decision making is always hindered because of red tapeism, bureaucracy, and power politics, and therefore uh, again, and also since under such system, the salaries of the state enterprises are not dependent on the income of the enterprise. This is a very important concept, that even if a state enterprise is not making enough profits, the salaries of the employees is not reduced. They get that much salary only, and they a fixed salary, and therefore, because it is not dependent on the income of the enterprise, there is always inefficiency, there is wrong allocation of resources, because there is no accountability, because the bureaucrats and the administrative officers know that we will get the salary that is allotted to us, no matter if the enterprise runs into losses also, and there is wastage. So that's a problem. The Another problem is that there are inherent defects in socialism, that is, there is a lot of administrative burden, because when the government is deciding each and everything, from a small enterprise to a large factory, to all the public related issues such as transport, roadways, and aviation, everything government is deciding. So basically, there is a lot of added administrative burden, and therefore also it leads to inefficiency in management. Okay. So since there are so many inherent defects in socialism, it has led to downfall of socialism almost in all the all the parts of the world, like the uh, you know uh, biggest example is Venezuela. You can see that, right, what happened with the economic crisis, that there was 200% of inflation. So 200, so that's what happened. That is the most recent example. The USSR, you can see that the Soviet Union, there was downfall of all these economies, because although socialism seems like a utopia, as Marx also mentioned, but it is not practically possible to implement a pure form of socialism in the real life. So that's the problem. So basically, even China and Russia today, although they claim that they are socialist nation, they have diluted their socialism, their criteria of socialism quite a bit, and that considerably they have diluted their socialist framework.